Hey there, I'd like to present this conversation I had a while back with my former business partner, Mr. Aaron Battle, talking about the experience that I had getting deported from Mexico. And this is a throwback in a couple of ways. I actually recorded this about 6 months ago, but it's also similar to the kind of conversations that we'd have when we first started the project. When we first started the Paradise Paradox, we had this ready, fire, aim approach. Like we just jumped right into it with the tools that we had. We didn't really know what we're doing or how to run a podcast or anything. And Aaron was actually astounded when one of our friends listened to the podcast the whole way through and even gave us some feedback on it. Thanks, Diana. I've had a few people say to me, I want to start doing videos or podcasts, but I'm too shy, or I just don't know if it'll be any good. Yeah, it probably won't be any good when you start, but that's no reason to stop you. In fact, you probably look back at those things that you recorded a few months later and just cringe. But that cringe is actually something positive because it lets you know that what was previously hidden is now exposed to the light, and you can see those unrefined parts of yourself and start polishing them up and making them something beautiful. Who knows what glory awaits you, traveler? What mysteries lurk at the depths of dark pools, that unknown chaos in the world and in your soul. Shine that dim but growing light, that torch of curiosity and hope, and become what you're afraid you might be. Welcome to the Paradise Paradox.
Find me.
Tracked down the only Mexicans in Newcastle. Found this motherfucker wearing a chamarra.
Yeah, I like to wear it on the weekends. We want to talk about the last 18 months. Like I feel like we can cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, I could tell you a whole bunch of crap.
Yeah. Well, it was just that I miss producing these episodes. And I've been meaning to come back for a while. But there was a lot of, just events happening. The change of countries multiple times. I mean, I'm a heavier crew now. There's a wife and baby in the mix as well. And it's surprising how much time they consume. So
Okay, let that be a warning to everybody.
to that guy.
Everybody thinking of starting a family. Families actually take time.
So as we're walking down the hill, there was a guy in his Bucks party. Like, considering where we are, like we're not that far out in the middle of nowhere, but it's kind of funny to meet people out in the road. So he's got his crew of dudes, and they're going on his Bucks party, so they're going to the pub or pub crawl or whatever. And I was trying to think. I was going to say, there's one thing that people they don't say. That getting married was like the best decision of their life. Yeah,
you were about to say that to him because that's what I said to you. And then you bit your tongue. And
I looked at him and I thought, I don't want to kill his flow.
Yeah.
His mates are going to do that for him anyway. I'm just a guy. I don't know him. I don't want to crush him. But I don't remember when was it that you told me that?
It was way after you got married.
Yeah, okay.
Because I remember we were out in Pachuquillo one year. It was probably the first year I went out there, and Roman said it to me, and his wife was sitting there next to him. He's like, you don't want to get married, bro. I tell you that. It's not worth it. And his wife is like, oh yes, what's her name? Tanya.
Yeah.
Tanya. Yeah. She's like, that's right.
For marriage is as long as, I don't know, 10, 20, you get into the 50 years.
Over the hump.
Yeah, you're going to have some rocky times. And from experience, the goal would be to nip that in the butt as soon as possible. So it doesn't...
In the butt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whip it on the butt.
just
to coin a phrase.
Tap it, right? Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, I'm in a healthy marriage, but it's... I bet, but I would agree. No one, as it's put in in the way you said to me. No man ever comes up to you and says, "Yep, you're about to get married.
Yeah.
It's the best decision of your life."
Yeah, though about a year after I said that to you, like you know, so many people said that to me over the years, at least two that I could think of. But I remember I mentioned it to my friend Vincent, and he was like, "No, it was the best decision I ever made. I got married. It was great. Still married. You know, he has 2 children now, I think. There are people out there who get married and enjoy it."
Yeah, I guess it's perception. I mean, you know, I don't want anyone to think that I'm not, you know, completely satisfied in my marriage. It's just, it is what it is. A married guy is very different to a single guy, and it's like, and then, you know, you're living in parallel universes, so you can't even compare.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you some stories. So,
I'm like, I'm tiptoeing around, going, "Holy shit! This is gonna get me in trouble." That's married man's mind.
Pussyfooting motherfucker over here.
Yeah.
All right, I got some stories I can't. All right, so you know I got deported from Mexico. That's one thing that happened.
That happened.
Yeah, so I was locked up in there for about 9 days. It seemed like forever. And there was a bunch of interesting characters there. So the thing was, I guess I thought I would never have a problem in Mexico, because it's like, yeah, okay, there's an organization, the Institute of Immigration. They exist, but, I mean, they're Mexican officials, so you expect if they talk to you, they only want to bribe. Before that, the only time I've really spoken to them is in the airport, and I asked them, "Where do I hand in this tourist card?" And they're like, "Give it to the airline. I don't care. Get out of my face." Yeah. That's the attitude. So I had no reason to suspect I'd have a problem. And then, you know, coming back from Tolantongo, taking the bus from Mexico City to Guadalajara, route that I'd taken at least 10 times, they picked me up, saw that I didn't have a tourist card, and they didn't want to bribe, apparently. So stuff changed with Trump. That's what it seems like.
See, I was thinking, how did that even happen? Because it's not. I mean, I know you just said that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But it had happened once before.
Yeah, but that time, all right. So we were coming back that time, I think, from Mexico City to Guadalajara.
Yep.
And they stopped the bus, and 2 people got on, but they weren't from the INM. They weren't from the Institute of Immigration. They were local police, municipal police.
That's right, they're cops.
And they had no authority to ask us about immigration issues. I found out that later from my friend who's a lawyer.
So what do these cops look like?
They have like these khaki suits, and yeah, they have the little logo of the INM with the Mexican flag on the shoulder, and they wear khaki caps, and yeah.
Because when your post came across on Facebook, I don't remember whether I saw it or whether Joanna saw it first, but it was like, my initial impression was, firstly, no way, and then is Kurt trying to get some more views on the next episode we're about to produce? what the hell is, like, what's he up to? Because it's so unreal. Yeah. It's like, when does that ever happen to anyone? And
right,
you know, you're an experienced traveler.
Yeah.
You know Mexico well. You speak Spanish.
Yeah. I thought I did. You know.
I thought there's that. I mean, I know that could happen, but Kurt can get out of that. That's not like, you know, good story, but how did it escalate to what? Like, they didn't give you a shot. You couldn't talk to them. There was no chance.
They got on, and they're asking for my papers, and I'm sitting there with Gela, and Gela's half asleep, and she's like handing them her ticket, thinking they just want to check her ticket.
Sure.
And they're like, "No, we don't want your ticket, miss." And then I pretended not to speak English, because I'm like, Spanish rather, because I'm like, what am I even going to say to them?
Yeah.
And then I'm there, you know, demanding to see my passport, and Gala's like, just give it to them. She didn't know I was there illegally. You know, minutes later, they're yelling at both of us, and they start yelling at Gala because they get so confused. And then they say, all right, well, you have to come with us. Either you're coming in with us or we take you to the police station. in hindsight, I probably should have said, "Yeah, take me to the police station," because if I don't have a chance, to get out of this with you, maybe I'll do it with them. Maybe they'll
You're right.
get relaxed a bit more. So,
but how were they able to check your actual status? Like, I mean, the Mexican process is very different to the US process, the Australian process, which seems to be really electronic and automatic and registered. Mexico is very casual. There's it's almost like, welcome back. They stamp you in and hang on to this card because I collect on the way out. But on the way out, they're so casual about it, it's hard to take the process serious.
Yeah, of course. And people have this perspective, like when I tell this to Australians, they're like, well, I don't understand. Why wouldn't you just go along with the rules? And I'm like, rules aren't rules, man. I mean, within Australia, okay, the rules are more or less the rules. But in the rest of the world, it's just not like that. Like if you tell an Australian who's never left Australia that you bribed someone, they'd be like, "What? That's crazy. That's illegal, and you could never do that."
Yeah, they flip out.
If you tell a traveler that you did that, they'll be like, "Yeah, of course. That's what you do. That's what you have to do." If you tell anyone from Southeast Asia, Mexico, most of Eastern Europe, that it's perfectly natural. Like, cops are looking for money. Of course.
Yeah, I think that culture stems deeper, as in when you're overseas, there's a negotiation at all times. Like, you don't... I think Australia's got a real false sense of security to start with. We don't barter to buy anything. Even when, I think we've lost our skill, even when we go to buy a car, it's like you can't text someone, is there a better price for cash? It's like you need to go through the process. You turn up with the cash, you show them the cash, you say, I'm ready to pay cash, and then you hit them with the price that would be cheaper than what it is they offer. Like, you can't just say, like, cash doesn't even mean anything here in Australia. That's not a negotiating tool really anymore. So as a people, I think the Australians are losing like a skill of interaction with people. Like, let's put it on the table and let's work it out. We just do as we're told.
Yeah. And then, we kind of have to eat that when we do travel, because people put the gringo tax on us, and they say like, hey, 200,000 dong for a pair of sunglasses. And you're like, are they real?
How much is that? How much is that?
It's
really?
like $10.
That's the same price I pay back. Wait, no, that's still a good deal. Here it is. Right?
And then you say no twice, and the guy's like, all right, 20,000.
But do they apologize?
No.
They laugh. They laugh. Okay.
This it's all part of the process.
Yeah.
It's just business.
Just business.
Yeah.
That should
get
be
the price you can.
That should be a dirty word, just business. Like, I'm going to screw you. Hey, thank you very much.
It's not screwing if you think it's a fair price, though.
No, you're right. It's just business.
Yeah.
It's like, it happened.
Yeah. I paid too much for some Mexican-style rugs that you get in San Juan de Dios in Guadalajara, and but I said that to my friend, and she was like, "Yeah, well, it's a fair price if you enjoy it." I'm like, it's true.
Yeah.
I was willing to pay it then, so.
Yeah. I mean, I was getting caught all the time, the same. but there's always a justification. I'm like, well, he's just a guy making sales. He's probably got a family. It's like, you know what? Yeah, he got an extra $5 out of me.
Yeah,
like I care.
Yeah. Let him enjoy it. So, so that's the thing. So apparently, you can't negotiate with the A&M anymore, and people are saying it's because of Trump. So the rumor was, when I was in the immigration center, that Trump is paying like between $100 and $500 a head for every person deported. The Trump administration, I should say. So these Guatemalans, Hondurans, Salvadorians come in by the truckload. They let them pass the border, apparently. Then they pick them up somewhere, getting close to the northern border. And then they ship them into this detention center where I was in Iztapalapa. And then a couple of days later, they send them back on a bus. So these guys come up in like a truck, 200 of them, squashed in like sardines in the back.
Into Mexico.
Yeah.
And Trump is putting a bounty on their head to be trapped in Mexico and not to be let up any further.
That's the rumor. Or, just get them out of Mexico. So put an extra line of defense against illegal immigrants getting into the US.
So how does that work with the new Mexican president? That's like Mexico's open for all, come hang out. Where,
is that what AMLO is saying?
I believe so. I mean, that's the impression I got from his initial, first day on the job speech after he won the election.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see how that played out.
I mean, Trump tweeted it pretty much at the same time. Congratulations, look forward to working with you.
Okay.
But I mean, whether that, I don't know.
It's very diplomatic, more diplomatic than usual.
Yeah. I mean, there's still very mixed feelings about how that's going to play out, because I think, it's a systematic problem. It doesn't matter whether there's a communist in charge or not. Government's government. It's pretty, a little more straight up that way. But so in my household, Joanna was stoked. Like, as a Mexican, that's also very much like, I don't know, what would you say the current political party is? I mean, they seem pre's out.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So they're now current. Okay.
So who's? I don't know who the new guys are. I mean,
I don't either, because
we
never had to pay attention to that, because Mexico,
it was shut down until now.
Yeah, you don't have to think about it too much, and I like to think about how the Mexican political system is kind of decentralized in a sense, because nobody really has the reins. Like, everybody has a little bit of power, but nobody really runs the thing.
Yeah.
So if you get a president who makes a demand, or they get the parliament to pass something, it'll filter down, and then the officials will be like, yeah, well, maybe not for my buddy, and then the police will be like, maybe not if this guy buys me a beer, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and you don't have to worry about anybody overstepping the bounds.
Yeah. So the night before the election, Joanna made it a big deal that we needed to pray. So that, it was even within the family, it's very complicated, but the current party in play, which to me seems extremely socialist, more so than the other parties, because the other parties seemed, they were, I guess more business orientated, and, they're opening the borders and everything the same business wise. But now we're talking about, literally financial handouts for people that are in, real outskirts, like mountain regions, people that are doing it tough, more than just, we're going to send you food, we're going to give you money. And I don't really know what they're going to do with that. So to me, it's like, I have my wife saying, he's going to help the people, and I have myself saying, that's not really how you help the people. Yeah.
Well, that kind of downwards bribery has been going on a long time. So if you go out somewhere in Nayarit, you'll see on the side of a house, it'll sometimes have a little plaque, and it said, this house was given a concrete floor, a hard floor, by this person, this local member, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So they do things like that, and it depends what it is, because I think giving them a hard floor is probably cool, as opposed to having a dirt floor. It's probably fine, but just giving them money or giving people food, there's problems where it reduces their dependence and that sort of thing. So it's it depends.
Yeah. No, it is a multi. It's like a quantum problem, chicken egg issue. It's like, how do you actually fix something like that?
Yeah.
But years ago, you showed me a post. There was an African American man talking about what handouts do to a society, and in the last 6 months that has it been 6 months? No, 2 months that I've been back in Australia. It's been a tough 18 months. So in the time that I've been back in Australia, I'm looking at house prices have dramatically changed since I've been here last. The social welfare, you're looking at 35% of like a federal budget and that's not including things like schools and hospitals and, you know, fire and police and, or, you know, those sort of things, like extra costs, but like literal just cashing everyday people up is at something like 35%. And I'm thinking, what sort of effect does that have on the actual internal economy of a country when you got, you know, the Aussie dream to buy your own home? Like that's so far out of reach for people when you're talking about a 2-bedroom apartment, you know, average price being well over $500,000 in Newcastle, which is, you know, we're not capital city.
Yeah, 2 hours from Sydney.
And I'm wondering, like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like that's just given to people, and how does that? So this conversation goes to, if you look at the other side, what would happen if that wasn't there? Like, would society just fall apart?
Probably not. It depends how you do it. I mean, if you pull the rug out from under them quickly, then it's going to be a rough adjustment. But that's how these things kind of come down, because you have like a system which has been in place for a long time, which is unsustainable. Like, say, the Social Security in the US, at one stage, it's not going to work anymore. There's not going to be enough money coming in to pay it out. And people are just going to wake up with a rude shock.
Yeah. See, well, that's the part where I think you can keep patching the system, and we'll see what happens. But when you're talking about if switching the system, like, okay, so now as I don't know, let's throw this example out. As a single parent with one child, you know, you receive assistance for rental assistance. You receive like energy bill assistance. You might receive and then plus child payment based on your assets to your name. You know, payment varies, but receiving even $250 a week, which I think's lowball in this case, that sort of money in the system times all the people is going to change the rental market, which has an impact on how much the house price is going to be worth. And that primary asset as the house price is what's underpinning essentially a whole housing-based banking system economy. So the rug will get pulled out. It's just a matter of when and what happens next. So, you know, there has to be some plan B transition in place. And I don't know what that is.
Plan B, Plan Bitcoin. Remember that? Remember Plan B?
Vaguely.
That must have been. It must have been like 2013.
Was that a sticker?
It was like a meme. It was probably a sticker, but it was this movement people were trying to get going, like saying, let's take our money out of the banks. We need a Plan B, Plan Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was actually implemented, and where there's a lot of soldiers still pushing forward with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So that, I mean, that's a completely different topic. I don't know. Maybe these ones are going to save us.
Load up on battle caps, guys.
So
here in the Wild West, at the nuclear winter wonderland.
So I walked into a party that Kurt invited me to, and this dude's like, "Hey, you haven't been given the cap," and he walked away reasonably quickly. And I'm thinking, I've already got a cap. What do I want? What are you talking about? And you know, I was just drinking a beer, so I was confused, but I didn't really care. And then he came back with this massive handful of coin. Like, he couldn't fit not one in. Like, he was dripping them as he's walking towards us. And he's like, "This is for you." I'm like, I'm not, I don't know who the host is of the party. I just turned up. I want to be grateful. So I'm now holding my hands like this and holding them.
There you go, man. Sorry, it's a bit grassy, but you'll figure it out. I should get you a few beers.
Okay, all right. So have you started recording?
Yeah.
All right. So the
contributions as well.
That's all right.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
So I've just been gifted my first ever village cap currency. I'm gonna put this in my pocket, right?
I guess so.
Now, can you imagine? Like, well, you got it. Well, I mean, for the players at home. So he's like, massive handful of caps. Now he's giving me beer caps, and as he's giving them to me, he's like, yeah, you can exchange these for beers. So now all of a sudden it's like, now there's an economy playing out. There's a demand for these caps. I'm looking at them falling out of my hands going, this is as good as beer and beer is money. So let's play. And I'm like, do I finish catching them in his hand or do I start picking them up? And I thought they're just rubbish. It's just beer caps. But it's how quick a few comments, a good marketing campaign can affect the demand of a token.
Right. This is an important lesson about
it is.
Token economics. How you can turn worthless shit into gold.
So that's why
the crypto alchemy, the cyber alchemy.
Yeah, that's why got to collect these caps. It's half a beer right there.
Yeah. So,
right.
So I met a lot of interesting characters there in the immigration center. So I remember one fellow from the US, and he was kind of an old hippie, great dude, and he told me these stories like, I got caught back in the day. I have this charge waiting for me in the US. It's for possession of cannabis. And I didn't get caught with that much. I'm like, really? How much? It's like, 1.5 pounds or something like that. Like, oh, okay.
Is that a lot?
If you're dealing, apparently it's just drop in the bucket. So, but he had this wonderful plan to solve his residency status in Mexico, where he talked to a guy from immigration, and this guy was going to arrange things for him and set up a cyber child and a cyber wife in the immigration system, so he didn't have to worry about getting deported, because you can't get deported from Mexico if you have a Mexican child. And it would have worked, except that
you didn't have one.
You had the child in the system, the imaginary child. But the guy who was supposed to finish it up didn't tell him that he'd completed the job, and he kind of ghosted him. So then this fellow, my hippie friend, ended up in the immigration center, and they were grilling him about it, asking, do you have a Mexican child? And he's like, can you give me an interpreter? Or trying to stall any way that he could. They put him on the spot.
Jeez.
He couldn't talk his way out of that one. But, it's not like, if you did something like that in Australia, like paid off a government guy to make a fake child for you so you could stay in Australia, that would be a serious offense. But in Mexico, they were like, all right, well, we'll clean that up. And, they deported him, and he'll probably be back in a year or whatever it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, okay, in Australia, that's like massive fraud.
Yeah.
Like, fraud's a big deal in any case, but yeah, in Mexico, I mean, not to play it down, but it's just, I think people are more real. They understand that the immigration office is just a building with people in it.
Yeah.
That all happen to wear the same tracksuit.
Yeah.
Where I think here I don't know, with the badge and the emblem and the logo and the colours just seem to be beyond, like they're a monster. They're bigger than people.
Yeah, somehow incorruptible. And, they wear sunglasses like yours. It's like state troopers in the US to dehumanize themselves. So people can't read their emotions, and it makes you look like a kind of like Terminator or something.
Yeah.
It's deliberate. And then I met some other people. I remember I met this Colombian dude, and he said he was working up in the north, like up near Monterrey. And we're like, so what do you do up there, up in the north, up near Monterrey? And he's like, nah,
No, I don't.
I think I could guess. I think he was involved in the pharmaceutical industry, to put it nicely. So, and then I remember I met this dude from Romania, and he was saying to me, this immigration center is not so good, You get deported from a country, you want to get deported from Sweden. That's where they have the whole smorgasbord.
So he was working
it's a
it
nice
out.
Place. Yeah. He just got out of prison. He'd been in prison for 3 years, I think, in Mexico. He'd been doing some fraud, credit card fraud. So they had a shop and people would come in, pay with their credit card. They had a camera set up so they could see the PIN that they enter.
All right.
And then they go and dupe the cards.
Yeah.
And they go on a spending spree. And he said he was doing very well with this little business that he had. He was making like $100,000 US dollars a month. And I just thought, why don't you quit while you're ahead? Like if I had made some money on a scheme like that, not that I would. If I did, I would get in and get out, you know, in and out like a robbery.
Yeah, that's not a long-term business model.
Yes. It's like, oh, do it for a year, get $1 million. No, get out, get out now, get out while you still have your freedom. Yeah, but a lot of interesting people, and I was there like is teaching English to the Guatemalans and teaching Spanish to the Indians there. A lot of nice Sikh gentlemen, and they had this crazy plan where they entered from South America. So they had like this $10,000 itinerary, and they would come through Chile and go all the way up, you know, Peru, Colombia, into Mexico, and then they'd have a flight from Mexico City back to India. But they wouldn't get on the flight. And they'd stay in Mexico, and I guess maybe because of the language barrier, I didn't entirely understand the plan, like if they got locked up by accident or on purpose. But part of the plan involved, if you are in immigration, then you wait there for 90 days, and you know, a lot of them had false passports. So you wait there for 90 days. The INM is contacting the Indian Department of Foreign Affairs and saying, hey, so do you know this guy? And they're like, no. Do you know this guy? No, that's not a person that exists. And eventually, because they can't hold you forever in this detention center, they got to do something with you. So after 90 days, according to the myth, they give you what these Indians would call a country exit. And I was like, okay, so you mean like a one-use passport, like a passport that will get you out of Mexico and no more. And that's what they meant. And then the idea was use this exit pass to get into the United States and go work at 7-Eleven. I was like, what kind of world are you from?
When you're listening to these stories, are you like, what the hell are they, like, are you serious? Like we just spent the first half an hour talking about Mexico being rules that aren't really rules, and they're going in with a plan based on a rule that may not even exist. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, a couple are like, oh, my cousin did it, it's fine. You know, he lives in New York now, or whatever it is.
Okay. Yeah. Dream.
Yeah. So after a few days, they let me out, but it felt so long, and I was writing on the back of these pieces of paper that I had to sneak a pen in somehow and do some writing in this like 2mm high type or handwriting rather, and trying to do what I could with my time. So that was tough. But here's something that I was thinking about, and also was kind of confirmed in another way by a friend of mine months later. So while I was there, I was like, all right, well, I got to make the most of this somehow. And I thought, what can I be grateful for? And I thought, at least I can breathe. I mean, in a place like this is a Rule 303. I mean, they could torture me or something, you know, put me in the Iron Maiden. I couldn't breathe. Yeah. I could breathe freely. That's something. That's quite a lot, actually. You know, it's amazing the level of freedom that you have just by having control over your breath. You know, you can adjust your emotions using it. You can do, you know, deep breaths and slow breaths. And at least I had that. And at least I could eat. And at least there was air. And at least I could see the sunshine.
Yeah.
So it was good because that experience enabled me to see things from this other perspective. And later, when I was in a temple in Thailand, my friend, my monk friend, doesn't like to be named, but he told me about the three Buddhist freedoms. And it's like the first freedom is literal physical freedom, like freedom how we'd normally think about it, freedom to travel, like you can walk down to the shops or you can jump on a flight and go to Vietnam. The second freedom is like an intellectual freedom or freedom of the imagination. So you might read books and imagine what things were like 100 years ago, or read Lonely Planet and think about what it is in Vietnam, or just imagine things like I was doing there, like imagining being in Byron Bay with a cute hippie girl with her head on my chest. Just imagining this.
How long could you escape for? Like that? Because
just a couple of seconds, but it's
a
nice
break.
to think about. Yeah.
Because when I first, well, you got the third virtue to explain.
Yeah, the third freedom. I'll just finish it quickly.
Yeah.
The third freedom is sort of like if the world moves around you rather than you moving through the world. So it's like you're always free. Exactly where you are, you're completely free.
Well, like when we're growing up and our parents would keep saying to us, what are you, the center of the universe or something? Like, well, you think everything revolves around you?
Yes, it is, but not in the way that we thought.
Okay.
So what were you going to say?
That was about being able to escape something like that.
Uh-huh.
Because I think I don't think I would even know how bad the place was because I didn't really want to ask, actually. I didn't know how bad it was. It's like one of those questions is like, you know what, if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. If you don't, that's cool too.
Okay. It's not like traumatic. There wasn't any violence.
Yeah.
So
I think that you said the worst part was the food. You didn't like the food. You felt hungry or it just...
they were giving me TVP. It made me sick.
Yeah.
Textured vegetable protein.
Well, I don't know.
It's like tofu's ugly cousin.
Yeah, okay. Who likes tofu?
Depends how you prepare it.
Yeah,
Crispy
true.
Tofu.
Yeah.
Stir-fried basil. But, no violence. So that was something to get out of the way.
A huge win, because when you think of Mexican prison, jail, it's like you automatically start thinking the worst.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're in a situation with a lot of people that are just common folk that had plans or got picked up the same or make an example of. Just, I don't want to say just unlucky, but do you think it was just extremely unlucky?
I don't know. I think that things have changed with Trump. I can't confirm that because I have limited data points, but I'll tell you one thing which, people tell me, well, why didn't you get your papers? Papers aren't a guarantee. So, all right, I didn't get my papers. Maybe it would have been smart to get them. But papers are not a guarantee. There were guys in there from Pakistan who were permanent residents of Mexico, and they were detained.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And there was even a Mexican citizen in there. He got caught. He didn't have his passport or birth certificate on him, his IFE, whatever. He's a Mexican American, but still, I felt like asking them, like, you're keeping us here. How long do you think it's going to be before they pick up one of your sons, one of your nephews? Like, think about it.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's nothing to say.
Yeah.
It's like a runaway train. It's like the system's just doing it as it wishes, and there's no control or checks or
and
responsibility.
Those bureaucrats, they're just doing their job, and they're trying to get a paycheck and feed their family, but they don't see the bigger picture, or they don't know what to do about it. So that's how it goes. Yeah. So, enjoy your freedom. get every piece of it that you can. Suck the life out of it.
You should have told AA Ron that before he jumped on his block party bus. Enjoy your freedom, mate.
Yeah.
No, but it's extremely valid points. I mean, we're in a very unique case in Australia.
Yeah.
There's a lot of countries that I guess are similar, but it's not like the words that really hit home was you don't realize what you have until you don't.
Yes.
And that's no message is going to change that. You don't realize.